can rest assured you're buying the finest MAGA cap made. They have Rolls-Royce caps at Chevrolet prices. Get 10% off your order. Use promo code WAR10. That's WAR10 at checkout for the highest quality MAGA products. Go to themagamall.com. That's the THE MAGA MAGA Mall MALL.com. Themagamall.com.
Studios. This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source. WOCA. Ocala.
How to use a common household product as a weed killer. That's coming up on This Land of Ours.
Welcome to the All In for Citrus podcast.
There's a new resource available that brings all of Florida's citrus research together, delivering it right to you on your computer, phone, or tablet. Introducing the All In for Citrus podcast from UF IFAS in partnership with Southeast AgNet. The monthly series spans the Sunshine State with research project updates from the UF IFAS statewide citrus team. Listen to the latest episode by searching All In for Citrus on iTunes, your favorite podcasting application, or at citrusindustry.net.
Living in Florida, we have so much to celebrate. Awesome weather, top-notch universities and sports teams, a rich blend of cultures, and so much more. From fresh market tomatoes to watermelons, from snap beans to tangerines, Florida farmers grow an abundance of safe and affordable products that are prized around the world. So look for the Fresh from Florida label when you shop. Wholesome, delicious, nutritious. Fresh from Florida. Fresh to you.
Vinegar is a jack of all trades around the home. It's an effective window cleaner, disinfectant, stain remover, and it has the ability to help control weeds too. However, you wouldn't want to use this acidic liquid in all areas of your landscape because it could damage any plant it touches. Typical white vinegar in the store is 5% vinegar and 95% water. This type works best on small annual weeds that are less than 2 weeks old, and it will often require several applications to do the job. You can up its efficacy by adding a cup of table salt and a tablespoon of liquid dish soap to a gallon of white vinegar. Usually this mixture only kills the tops of the target weeds, leaving the roots that can regrow new shoots. The safest places to use vinegar on weeds is in between concrete seams and sidewalks, mulch or gravel paths, and driveways. It's usually easy to spray the vinegar in these areas without getting it on other plants. As with any weed killer, select a day that is warm and sunny to apply it. I'm Kathy Isom, Southeast AgNet.
This week at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala, the message is simple. Everything's coming up roses. Bob has a huge selection of easy care, drift, and knockout roses in the big number 4 size, regularly selling for $29.99. They're buy one, get one at half price. Now take your pick. You'll find just the color you're looking for. Here's a great BOGO. Fruit trees including peach, pear, mulberry, chestnut, banana, big number 5 size, buy one, get one free. You've got to see those gorgeous Tibushina, marked down from $29.99 to just $19.99. Got a gardening problem? Well, you can just ask Bob or any one of his experts. They love to give lots of free advice. Come on by. Check the ad, bobwinescamelliagardens.net. Come on by Southeast 39th Street daily till 4:30 in the same blooming place since 1952.
WOCA.
Some sunshine giving way to clouds with a shower or thunderstorm around for the afternoon with a high 88 to 90. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy, low 74 to 78. For tomorrow, periods of sun and clouds with a thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 88 to 90. Thursday, more of the same with a high 87 to 90. And Friday's high 89 to 91. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Kevin Snyder.
WOCA, putting the local back into radio.
Auto repair with personal care. We know what we're talking about. Matt Gibbs and the guys over at Sonrise. Automotive will treat you right. We'll treat you right.
Some days it just moves nice and smooth, and then other days everything you do is like that. So I was just making it work. As we're back here listening to AM Ocala Live, Matt Gibbs in the studio, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. automotive repair with personal care. Matt Gibbs, as we welcome you, partner. Glad to have you in the studio here.
Sure, glad to be here.
One of the things we mentioned, we were talking off air just a little bit, we mentioned Ford in a way. And I got to bring it up. Last week they announced it's out, the Ford Bronco. And I wanted to tell you what you thought, what your feelings are on it.
I like the retro stuff.
Yeah.
It's good looking. It kind of looks like the little Bronco.
Right. The old little smaller Bronco, and it kind of took on these characteristics that make it look like a little bit competitive to a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I guess I was expecting a little something different, but with the look that I was expecting. But yeah, it's.
And I think there's 3 different versions.
3 different versions of it, right? And it's I don't know, it's kind of interesting. So
I get excited whenever Ford comes out with something new.
Yeah.
That means more money.
Do you? Yeah. Do you think this is going to take off and be successful in the Ford line with them bringing this back here?
Yeah. Like Jeep, one of my good customers, he bought the new Jeep. The old Willys has come back.
Yeah.
So he bought one of those.
Yeah.
It's not, but it doesn't look like an old Willys.
No, it doesn't.
It's definitely a new Willys.
Yeah. And the Bronco, it just looks sharp.
Yeah, that's a good looking car.
And it's coming of age in a way, like you said. It's body style of the old, but with bringing on the new technologies and all that. And then, I think it'd be good. Do you think? Yeah, I was going to say, do you think the market's there to say the guy won't win? Yeah. We do got a caller. Good morning, WOCA. You're on the air with Matt Gibbs, Sonrise Automotive.
Hello, Adam. Matt, how you guys doing?
Good morning, Sonny.
I have a question. With the new Ford, you mentioned them, and that's what's woke me up to it or made me remember, was the new Explorers actually have a rear-wheel drive, and I don't think they talked about that much.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that's all Explorers or what, but we found out that it is the, not the smallest engine, but you don't have to buy the super-duper turbocharged, supercharged V8. And I was surprised that they went to that. But the way it was explained to me was because there isn't enough room under the hood for the engine, the transmission, and everything else the way it's set up. So they went back to rear-wheel drive, which allows them more room under the hood to place different things and rearrange stuff and also balance the car out, where it's close to 50-50 weight distribution. And my last thing is for Matt, really, is do you prefer the old A-arms with the shims and all that, or the new McPherson struts? I would assume the strut is might be easier to work with, but as far as any vehicles are going the way they are going now. I'll hang up and listen. And guys, have a great day.
You too, Sonny. Thank you, partner.
Yeah, let's see the shims. I haven't put shims in the front end for a long, long time now.
Yeah.
I mean, even the conventional, the old style type A-frames, like in the Chevrolet trucks and whatnot, they have eccentrics now, so you can move the upper control arm. But I mean, I like what they've done with this front suspensions on these cars with the struts and everything. They're just so much more durable. They're just they work so much better. People, an alignment.
Yeah.
They're unless you really got into some serious junk somewhere, your alignment is pretty set, and and a lot of times even we'll like, even if we find like ball joints are wore out or something's wore out on the front end so we'll replace that component, put it on the machine. A lot of times, man, it just brings them straight back right into specs, perfect. We just usually have to adjust a toe or something.
Sure.
Maybe a camber a little bit. But yeah, the way that they've done a great job with suspension on cars today. compared to what it used to be back in the day.
Back in the day, and that all transfers into better rides.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything just amazing. Like, it used to be like, oh, that's a nice ride, like a Cadillac. Like, I'll kind of have that.
One of our good customers has a '55 Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And it rode, and it was beautiful. He was offered almost $200,000 for this car. This car was nice.
Is that right?
But when you drove it drove like a 1955 Chevrolet.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just had that old drive, that old feel. You felt everything. Well, they came out with a kit. He bought a kit or something somewhere where they can new A-frames, the whole front suspension was redone, and we actually did the alignment on it, and we did it to their specifications. The manufacturer says, this is the caster, this is the camber, this is what we want on right side, left side. We want it just this way, and we did it just that way.
Yeah.
And when we got done, it was like driving a 2019 car.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible.
Oh, that had to make that even more cherry.
So that car really, really became, now it would be, you have this 1955 Chevrolet that is absolutely beautiful, and now it's actually nice to drive, because you used to have to work to drive a car back in them days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like...
And that's part of, like feeling everything. Then the whole thing has got some vibrations, it's got a little bit of shakes here, and that's how everything...
And you drove like this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. and that's true, because in the movies when they're driving those old cars, they're doing this, you're like, no, that's what you had to do.
You're doing that.
That's what you had to do. Oh, well, awesome. But what he started with there was talking about the Explorer and how the newer ones went back to a rear wheel drive, which I know for a while for a lot of fans. One of my the old owners of the flight school back where I used to work in Pensacola, the old man, he about every 6 years would buy an Explorer, and he had it for generations, right? And the last one he bought was I think it was a 2010, and it was nice. And it was always the conversation of, like, a few years later, come with the redesign. And he's like, yeah, you're going to get another one? You're going to look at getting a newer one? And he's like, I don't think I really want it, because it was then front-wheel drive. It went from rear wheel to front wheel. So there was a lot of people who weren't big fans of that in a way, and I'm wondering if that was just the idea, like, let's go back to rear wheel drive, and then at the same time we could do a little bit more, because the body style in the new Explorers, it's fairly, I saw an old Explorer, like a 1996 going down the road the other day, and I'm like, look at that tiny little thing,
right?
Compared to what's out there now. Right. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I like it. I like how they come up with the transitions, and they come up with the new lines and the body styles, and I might not particularly like that particular body style, but I like how they just change it up.
Yeah.
And but I don't understand why you would be opposed to rear wheel drive or front wheel drive.
Yeah.
If you live up north in the mountains, front-wheel drive is way better than having rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's way easier to pull you up the mountain and push you up the mountain.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I just don't, I don't know. For me, I don't care if it's front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, as long as it gets me down the road.
Yeah.
They both work efficiently.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, and that's why I brought it up, because there's a few people I talked to. Maybe it was just the change. Maybe it was they're older generation, so it was the idea of change.
It's, if the transmission goes out, that's got to be way more money.
Probably.
It costs way more money to fix a transaxle than a transmission. Oh, Lord. You ought to see what we're looking at, folks.
I think he was on the camera, too, in the background. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. That was probably really, really creepy. I'll have to play that one back.
Jason just walked into the studio.
And he paused there for a moment. Wicked. If you're just joining us, as we're now 15 minutes past the top of the 10 o'clock hour, Matt Gibbs, Sonrise Automotive, auto repair with personal care, as we've got phone lines open, 622-9622. We were just discussing a little bit about the new Ford Bronco, as there was basically the idea was it's like you got this one that, like I said, kind of resembles like the older style, which is more square, and then it's got the Sport, which is almost more like the family wagon that they're trying to push out. So the two big different ones there. But neat to explore nonetheless, as they've got a few additions as far as the As the Bronco here, they've got the Black Diamond, Outer Banks, Badlands, Wild Track, full off-road, takes thrills head-on, wrapped around 17-inch bedlock-capable wheels, rear-locking differentials, and position-sensitive monotube shocks.
Woohoo! Oh, yeah.
Boom. So that thing's stocked.
Stout.
Yeah. Comes with a black painted hardtop, black grille, black wheels, unique hood graphics, and tested in the legendary racing locations like Johnson Valley, California. Bronco Wild Track sets a new bar for the capability among rugged off-road utilities, which is what something I read was an op-ed piece that was about, like, there really isn't anything to really compete with a Jeep Wrangler on the market. Really isn't, right? So then this is the idea. Hey, there's more options out there. Don't know if the price is going to be that much different.
maybe they'll be priced back in the Model T days.
Yeah.
$894 get you a new Bronco.
You know, what's interesting is watching something on History Channel not that long ago in lieu of the automotive guys, the big ones. They were discussing that a little bit about the price. And the price of cars that were back then, when you started to look at the value of money back then, they were still, like, GM was still putting out cars that were fairly expensive. Yeah. That would be a $30,000 car, which was back then.
Right.
Because you're looking at, $950 for that beautiful, piece of machinery. And you're like, well, that's equivocal to about $30,000 back then.
You stop and think about it. There was a lot of folks when this thing, when it exploded in our country, the car industry, that's what created our middle class society.
Yeah.
So here you are working at the Ford plant, in Detroit, and you got to take your horse to work or a bike or whatever, walk.
Yep.
But then as they built and as they grew and as they got money, they were the ones buying the car. And then it's crazy how.
Yeah. Which is what they talked about. It's what Henry Ford was about. He's like, if I'm going to be making this thing for the American public, or in the world, the people who work here need to be able to afford that car. It was such a different notion of the idea and concept, because everything before was like, well, there was a certain market for it. So it's like we're making an automobile, class, luxury, this is where it's going to go. This is who's going to buy it.
Right.
And then this guy's like, well, I'm going to make a ton of them. Matter of fact, so much so that they're going to be affordable that the people who are actually building the darn thing is going to be able to drive one. That's right. And it's crazy where we evolved from that in a way, with everything all the way through and through to like the interstate system to everything from thereafter. And it is fascinating a little bit. You know what sparks my interest too is whenever there's big change like that, right? And you think back, early 20th century, the big change with the automobile. There was, of course, very strong conservative issues with having the automobile come onto the road. It was, hey, these are death sleds. These are, we're not going away from the horse and buggy industry. How dare you? You're losing jobs. You're taking jobs away from the American people who work in the horse industry, who do this as pulling buggies. And it's the same in history as you look at the concept of things changing in a way. And then the lobbying that went into it, the rules and regulations that come from it. And I found out that that's where the idea of the terms jaywalking came from. These automobiles were going down so-called roads that were either brick or dirt that were usually meant by horses, small areas, and people just were walking out and getting hit by these things. So, of course, a lot of people are like, these are killing people left and right, with a percentage of whatever for the population that are dying from being in an automobile wreck or being hit by an automobile. So instead of like a lot of people saying, take them off the road, it was, hold on a minute, Your Honor, what if we just created a regulation that keeps the pedestrians operating a different way? So then it made them have to do crosswalks. But to enforce that, they had to come up with something that would make it embarrassing enough to be ticketed for crossing the road not at the crosswalk. And back then, the term J was a little bit slanderous. It was a little bit cruel. So if you got a ticket for jaywalking, it's like, whoa, you call me a J? Well, you broke the law by not crossing the street where you should have. And that's where the term jaywalking came from. And it's interesting how those things stand out or pick up, if you will.
Thank you, Joe.
We got a caller. Good morning, WOCA. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. I think one of the things that might travel uphill to the manufacturers is this damn electronic power steering, which costs thousands of dollars to replace when it dies. Maybe they could make some of the smaller cars with manual steering. I mean, I drove my father's '58 Ford station wagon with manual steering, and it steered easy enough. Big 4,000-pound monster. It shouldn't be that. Shouldn't be that hard to steer these little bitty 2,000-pound things.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but that's just electronic steering is just where we're heading. I think it's part of. I actually think it's part of the whole system of getting away from the internal combustible engine.
Yeah,
I think that's just part of the process. Just like if you see like the Toyota, the Prius.
Yeah.
The hybrid cars. So when you're stopped at a light, the engine shuts off.
Yep.
Right? So it's running off the battery.
Yeah.
But what if it's 100 degrees outside and the engine's not running? What's keeping you cool inside the car?
Right.
So what's keeping you cool inside the car is an electronic. You want to talk about something expensive? Replace a compressor for one of those cars. So this whole AC system is running off. It's electronic.
Yeah.
So we got electronic air conditioning, steerings.
I always thought about that and didn't know quite how they did it.
So
I guess now I know.
It's all on the way.
Thanks for the call, partner.
And it goes back to exactly what Adam was just talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So here's going to be a boardroom of people sitting in this thing, and here comes this all electric car coming down the road, and they're going to be hogwash, ha ha ha. Kind of like the company that made the buggy whips, for the horses, as the old first car went trucking down the center of the town,
Yeah.
Ha ha ha, look at that thing. Ha ha ha. 2 years later, the manufacturers of these automobiles are going, ha ha ha, look at all these horse buggy people are now out of business.
That's right.
But that's how it works. We're going to change, and we either embrace it or we don't.
With that being said, it was brought up a little bit. I didn't get a chance to read it on air, but I wanted. It says Florida moves ahead with more electric vehicle plans. As they say, will investment pass by poor minority communities? Is it more designated and that kind of stuff? But the idea is in getting or moving ahead with these plans for more of these charging stations. We see it here in town over by the plaza there with what's over there?
Dillard?
Is it Heathbrook Plaza or beyond the Heathbrook Plaza there? But yeah. We've had those for years, 6-7 years those have been there. And now they're talking about, to really execute the idea of bringing more electric cars to fruition, you got to put these logistics into place. And that's what they're starting to look at too a little bit more. And all across the state, all overall, as Republican Governor Ron DeSantis announced an $8.5 million for new fast electric charging stations along I-75, as 4 for 95, and the stations will be built this summer and will span more than 1,200 miles and increase the number of public accessibility fast chargers in Florida by more than half. By more than 50%. So it's kind of interesting when you see how, now if we talk automobile, where are we going in the idea of, 2020, where do we see ourselves by the middle of the decade or the end when it comes to the electric car? What do you think, partner?
I think it's pretty much here now. I think one of the biggest issues this is always the issue, it's always about money.
Yeah.
So for a long time, working in a dealership, we had people come in and buy alternative cars, whether it be, a hybrid, electric car, CNG, propane. Their thought process is the environment. That was,
right.
That's where this whole thing started.
Where you were discussing, like, it's right now who's in the market for that, it's not necessarily a cost idea. It's about the idea of the environment. It's what they see as a bigger picture.
Well,
right?
If they're going to make this actually work,
yeah,
it has to be about the cost of it. They're going to have to
go
back, and just like Henry Ford, and say, okay, if you want everybody in the state of Florida to drive an electric car, make it to where everybody in the state of Florida can afford an electric car.
Can afford an electric car.
To me, it's that simple.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We got another caller. Good morning, WOCA.
It's Sonny again. You talk about electric vehicles. I mean, they're really not that new. They just never really caught on and took off. I can remember as the old Railway Express when I started working for the job I had up in New York. I was a utility worker. We had to go down to a lot of times down to their substations and everything else. Edison would just supply the electricity, and they handled everything after that. Well, they still had the old hard rubber tired electric delivery trucks. Now, that's all well and good. I guess the thing worked fine for 8 hours or whatever the day, 8 or 10 hours or whatever the day was that the people put in. But then when they got back, they had to be recharged, and it took the rest of the day. To recharge these things so that they were ready to roll in the morning. And the batteries were like humongous on them. They had the old type glass cell batteries.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing, he didn't want to hit that thing. He didn't want to T-bone one of those because that battery has to just go flying all over the place if you hit it hard enough. But anyway, the thing is they ran, but they weren't that fast. Like I said, the hard rubber and all that. But, I guess that's all well and good, but that's just it. You can go in a gas station, and 10 minutes later, you got a full tank of gas and whatever else. You went to use the head and whatever, and you're on your way. But these cars, they're saying a fast charge. We can do that in 20 minutes, but how far are you going to go on a fast charge? And what does it do to the batteries if you do nothing but fast charges?
I'm sure.
But this is still a big thing that they have to come up and figure out. Especially, let's say you have a car and you're like me and you hang on to it forever. I figured I'm on my third 12-volt battery for starting purposes, but what happens with these things when you got a battery that weighs several hundred pounds and it's slung under the car? It's a major job to get that replaced, and the cost is I would assume. Years ago, I heard when the Priuses came out, there was like $3,000 to $5,000 to replace a battery then. I wonder what it'll be now with the new types of batteries.
Yeah.
Anyway, have a great day.
You too, Sonny. As mentioned, too, just to round that out, as the state transportation officials have figured and cited figures projecting that there could be 4.5 million electric vehicles on Florida roads by 2030. So they're thinking that within 10 years, that's going to be huge. An estimated 69,000 are currently registered here, according for the data of the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. As more initiatives need to come down the line if that's what they're expecting.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Matt Gibbs, Sonrise Automotive. Thanks, partner. Thanks for coming in. A lot of good stuff. As we're rolling through this Tuesday show, more coming your way. AM Ocala Live back after this.
USA Radio News with Chris Barnes.
It's becoming clear now that this year's party conventions are going to be very different from most years. For instance, at the Democratic National Convention, the list of speakers at the